Royal Caribbean executives call it the future of cruising, but many loyal cruisers are calling it the beginning of the end and are threatening to switch cruise lines over this massive strategy shift, which is one of the most controversial moves they've made in years. Now, is Royal Caribbean abandoning their most loyal customers to chase new cruisers? Or is this actually a smart business move that might benefit more travelers than you'd think? I've analyzed what's happening and you might be surprised by what I found. So let's look into what this means for your future cruise plans and whether this really means the end of Royal Caribbean as we know it. Now, Royal Caribbean has been shifting their strategy, putting more and more of their incredible large Oasis-class ships on 3 and 4 night itineraries. And by winter 2026-27, all but one Oasis-class ship will be sailing these shorter itineraries. And it leaves Symphony of the Seas as the only one still offering that traditional 7-night cruise from Galveston. This big change, of course, started with Utopia of the Seas, which has been super successful running short cruises. And Royal Caribbean executives have been very clear about who they're targeting: new and first-time cruisers. And they've called these short sailings the on-ramp of new cruising. Basically, it's a test drive that doesn't need a huge investment of time and money. And in total, Royal Caribbean will have 11 ships offering short Caribbean cruises from 3 to 5 days by the 2026-27 sailing season. But let's be honest though, there's definitely a money angle here. Short cruises are incredibly profitable with higher nightly rates, faster turnover, and more drink packages sold. Now, where exactly are these cruises going? Well, if you guessed Royal Caribbean's private destinations, you'd be absolutely right. Most of these short cruises focus heavily on Perfect Day at Coco Cay, which has become the center of Royal Caribbean's Caribbean strategy. And they're doubling down on this approach with the new Royal Beach Club in Nassau opening in December 2025 and the Royal Beach Club in Cozumel coming in 2026. Of course, the reality is that these short cruises offer very limited port variety, mostly just the Bahamas. And Royal Caribbean is specifically designing what they call the perfect weekend itineraries that can run Friday through Monday, letting people get back to work without missing a beat. Now let's talk about why so many loyal cruisers are upset, and there are some really valid concerns here. First of all, if you're flying in from pretty much anywhere, from Canada, Midwest, the West Coast, these short cruisers just don't make financial sense. The cost of flights and pre-cruise hotels is hard to justify for just 3 or 4 days at sea. And I've heard many people say that they would never fly across the country for such a short sailing. Then there's a time factor. The Oasis-class ships are massive floating resorts with a ton of amenities, restaurants, and entertainment options. And 3 or 4 days is just not enough time to experience everything they have to offer. The theaters can only fit a fraction of the passengers per show, meaning you're going to probably miss some of the Broadway-style productions or aqua shows that make these ships special. And the money math doesn't work out for many people either. So if you do try to create a 7-night experience by doing the back-to-back cruise, you'll typically pay significantly more than what you would for just a 7-day sailing. Plus, you'll likely visit the same ports twice, which brings me to another major complaint. The itinerary variety is severely limited. Most of these short cruises are going to visit Nassau and Perfect Day at Coco Cay, and that's pretty much it. So many cruisers feel like they're being forced to visit Royal Caribbean's private destinations rather than experiencing authentic Caribbean ports. And there's a strong feeling that this is primarily about keeping passenger spending in-house rather than enhancing the cruise experience. For loyal cruisers who have spent years and sometimes decades building their account on anchor status, there's a real sense of abandonment. Many Diamond, Diamond Plus, and Pinnacle members feel that Royal Caribbean is no longer valuing their loyalty. I've heard people say things like, loyal to Royal doesn't mean that Royal is loyal. But there are also concerns about the atmosphere on these shorter sailings. Many worry that they will become party ships with the younger crowd focused on drinking and partying rather than that traditional cruise experience. So some longtime Royal Caribbean fans fear that the line is becoming more like the Carnival with its booze cruise reputation. Of course, no offense to Carnival, but every cruise line does try to attract a different type of crowd. Now finally, for those who still want a 7-night Oasis-class experience, the only alternative is upgrading to Icon-class ships, which come with a much higher price tag. Many loyal cruisers just can't justify paying thousands more for a similar experience that they're used to enjoying at a lower price point. In spite of these concerns, there are definitely some positives in this shift, and they benefit more people than you might think. So let's go through them. First of all, for travelers with limited vacation time or busy work schedules, these short cruises are perfect. Because not everybody can take a full week off work plus the 2 days of travel time, especially families with school-aged children or professionals with really busy careers. So these 3 and 4 night options make it possible to enjoy a premium cruise experience over a longer weekend or with minimal time away from work. But up to now, Utopia was the only option, and it cost a lot more than other shorter cruises. The shorter duration also means a lower total price, creating a more affordable entry point for budget-conscious travelers. While the per-night cost might be higher, the overall investment is lower, making these premium ships accessible to a broader audience. After all, more people can afford a $700 3-night cruise than an $1,800 7-night cruise. For Florida residents and others who live near ports, these short cruises are incredibly convenient. I mean, they can just drive to port, enjoy a weekend getaway, and be back at work on Monday without any hassle. So this convenience factor allows them to cruise more frequently throughout the year rather than taking one big vacation. Interestingly, many younger cruisers actually prefer the ship experience over port visits anyway, and for those people who have small children, it is a safer alternative that is a lot more convenient. So for those travelers, a short cruise focused on enjoying the ship's amenities rather than multiple port stops may work out even better. And contrary to what many people think, not all short cruises turn into wild party scenes. Many people just have a wonderful, relaxing experience on these shorter sailings, and that was our experience every time we went on a shorter cruise. There's also the flexibility of combining these cruises with land vacation. So for example, you can spend a few days at Disney World or Universal Studios and then end it with a short cruise. And this combination creates a diversification that appeals to many families because now they don't have to choose between kids wanting to go to the theme park and adults wanting a relaxed vacation at sea. So they have more options versus being locked into spending the whole week of their vacation on the ship. Of course, from the business perspective, this strategy likely increases Royal Caribbean's profitability and sustainability, which benefits shareholders and potentially ensures the company's long-term success. And while that might not be relevant to individual cruisers, we got to think about the fact that the financially healthy cruise line is better positioned to invest in new ships, new innovations that we all down the road will enjoy. So what are your options if you're not thrilled about these changes? Well, one workaround is booking back-to-back cruises, which basically allows you to create your own 7-night experience. And you could also consider other Royal Caribbean ship classes for the 7-night cruises. They do still exist, just not on most Oasis-class ships. But if you're set on a 7-night Oasis-class experience, then Symphony of the Seas in Galveston is going to be your go-to option. Or you could splurge on Icon-class ships for 7-night cruises, though they do come with much higher price points. So many cruisers are even looking at other cruise lines or considering Royal Caribbean cruises in other areas like Europe and Alaska. Remember though that cruise industry is cyclical and ship deployments change over time. We had Voyager and Freedom class ships that used to handle those short cruises before Oasis took over, and this trend may eventually reverse itself in the future. So for the last 20 years I've seen these patterns come and go. So is this the end of Royal Caribbean as we know it? Well, I don't think so. From what we're seeing right now, they're making a strategic shift, but it's not really a death spiral. They're adapting to the changing market conditions and consumer preferences, just as they have done throughout their history. So for loyal cruisers who've built their vacation habits around the 7-night Oasis-class type cruises, this change is definitely disappointing. The company is clearly prioritizing new customer acquisition over catering exclusively to their loyal base. But remember, again, cruise lines deployments are cyclical, and what we're seeing now could easily shift again in a few years when market conditions change. So in the meantime, there's still plenty of options for those who prefer longer cruises. Symphony of the Seas will continue sailing from Galveston on 7-night sailings, and of course there's Icon-class ships, and they're more expensive, but they do provide an amazing experience for those who can afford it. And don't forget about other ship classes and itineraries, because they are being constantly refurbished and they might give you what you're looking for at the price point that is easier on your budget. The truth is, Royal Caribbean is making a calculated business decision from what they believe will strengthen their position in the market. So whether that calculation proves correct remains to be seen. What do you think? Would you try one of these short cruises on Oasis-class ship? Or is this change going to make you want to switch to another cruise line? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. And if you want to know how to get the absolute best deal on these new short cruises, or any cruise for that matter, check out this video next.